You see, life is too short to be begging people to love you, to like you, or to give you attention. I learned early that the moment you start forcing someone to choose you, you lose your own power. Respect is not something you beg for. It's something you command simply by knowing your worth. When you walk into a room and you know who you are, and you don't apologize for your shine, people can either step up or step aside. And that's fine, because the people who are meant to be in your life will recognize it without you having to twist your arm. You never force love. You never force loyalty. You never force someone to see your value. You either embody it and let it naturally attract the right people, or you stay in your lane and continue growing. The truth is, forcing someone is like trying to pour water into a cup that has a hole. It's a waste of energy and it only leaves you drained. I've seen too many folks cling to people who don't appreciate them, and they're left bitter, frustrated, and confused. Listen, not everyone you want in your life is meant to be in your life, and that's okay. The people who truly belong with you will make it easy. They'll show up, they'll invest, and they'll prioritize you without you having to plead or push. And the ones who don't, let them walk. It's not rejection. It's redirection. Every person who walks away is making room for the person who will step in without hesitation. Life works like that. When you stop forcing, you stop settling. And that's when you start living. There's a big difference between being irresistible and being desperate. Desperation is needy, it's pushy, it's unattractive. Irresistibility comes from confidence, from passion, from purpose. When you invest in yourself, your mind, your heart, your goals, you naturally pull people toward you. You become magnetic because you don't need anyone to complete you. You're already complete. And here's the kicker. The right people will see that, appreciate it, and align with it. You never have to chase, you never have to beg, you never have to manipulate. Your job is simple. Show up as the best version of yourself every single day and let life do the rest. You see, most people go through life not understanding one simple truth. Your value is not up for debate. You don't have to prove it to anybody. Too many folks spend their whole lives bending, stretching, twisting, and contorting themselves just to get someone to see them. I'm talking about love, friendship, respect, attention. It doesn't matter what it is. They're out here begging, pleading, and forcing people to pick them. And here's the problem with that. The moment you start forcing someone to choose you, you're already giving them power over your peace. You are handing them a steering wheel to your happiness. And that, my friend, is a dangerous place to be. I remember a time when I was young and learning this lesson the hard way. I would chase after people, thinking that if I just smiled bigger, laughed harder, said the right things, wore the right clothes, or tried to be someone I wasn't, they would finally see me the way I saw myself, or the way I wanted them to see me. But let me tell you something. People don't give you value just because you want them to. They give you value when you live it, when you embody it, and when you refuse to compromise it for anyone. There's a lesson here that is simple but powerful. Self-respect is magnetic. It doesn't ask, it doesn't plead, it doesn't chase. It stands tall and says, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." I've watched people destroy themselves chasing approval, trying to make someone love them, trying to make someone appreciate them, trying to make someone stay when all the signs are telling them they're not wanted. And it's heartbreaking because you can see it happening right in front of them. They are so busy convincing someone else of their worth that they forget to live it for themselves. They forget that the most important vote of confidence they will ever get is the one they give themselves. You have to understand that your worth is not defined by who chooses you, who stays with you, or who notices you. Your worth is defined by your integrity, your character, and the way you carry yourself even when nobody is watching. There's a story I like to tell about a young man I knew who was always chasing after people. He was always trying to prove himself in relationships, always trying to bend over backward to make someone see him as valuable. And every time he got hurt, every time he felt rejected, and every time he would come back asking the same question, "Why don't they see me? Why won't they choose me?" And I would tell him, "Because you're looking for validation in the wrong place. You're trying to make people choose you instead of choosing yourself first." And he didn't understand it at first. He thought if he just tried harder, loved harder, or gave more, then it would work. But that's not how life works. The people who are meant to see your value will see it without you forcing it. They will choose you because they recognize the power, the confidence, and the self-respect that you already have. Here's the thing. When you force someone to pick you, you're saying that their opinion of you is more important than your own opinion of yourself. And that's dangerous because people's opinions are fleeting. They change with their moods, with their circumstances, with their own insecurities. Your value should never be at the mercy of someone else's feelings, because if it is, then you are constantly in a state of chaos. You are constantly seeking approval, constantly trying to please, constantly trying to earn what should already be yours by the sheer fact of your existence. Self-respect is not earned from others, it's claimed by you. It's the quiet confidence that says, "I know who I am, and I'm not going to shrink, twist, or beg for anyone to recognize it." Now, I know it's not easy. I know it's tempting to chase, to push, to fight for attention, for love, for loyalty. But let me tell you, the moment you step back and stop forcing, everything changes. You start attracting the right people because they sense it. They sense that you are no longer desperate, that you are no longer needy, that you are no longer trying to earn their affection. And when you operate from that place of confidence, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're no longer giving away your power. You're no longer compromising your peace. You're no longer allowing someone else to write the story of your worth. You are the author of that story, and it begins with the simple decision to honor yourself, to respect yourself, and to stop forcing anyone to choose you. Let me break it down for you even further. Imagine your life is a garden. You plant seeds of love, respect, and kindness, and you nurture them every day. Now, imagine trying to force the weeds to grow instead of the flowers. That's what happens when you try to force someone to pick you. You're watering something that isn't meant to grow with you, and in the process, you neglect the things that truly belong in your garden. Your energy is precious. Your time is limited. You cannot afford to spend it convincing someone to love you, to like you, or to see your worth. You have to invest it in yourself, in your dreams, in your growth, in the people who are already choosing you naturally. And here's another truth. When you stop forcing, you actually become more attractive. People are drawn to confidence. They are drawn to peace. They are drawn to someone who is whole and complete on their own. When you're constantly chasing, you are signaling neediness, insecurity, and doubt. But when you walk tall, when you smile genuinely, when you love yourself unapologetically, the right people take notice. They gravitate toward you, they respect you, they choose you without you having to push, prod, or plead. And that, my friend, is how you reclaim your power. That is how you live life on your own terms. So stop forcing, stop chasing, stop bending over backward for anyone to see your worth. Your value is not a negotiation. It's not a game. It's not something that requires someone else's permission. The people who belong in your life will show up naturally. They will choose you because they recognize the integrity, the confidence, and the self-respect that radiates from you. And as for everyone else, let them pass, let them walk, let them make their own choices. Because when you honor yourself, when you hold your head high, And when you refuse to force anyone to choose you, you are living in alignment with your true power. And nothing else matters. Life has a way of teaching you lessons that you don't always want to learn. But you have to learn them if you want to survive with your dignity intact. One of the most important lessons I've ever learned is this: if someone doesn't choose you, let them walk. And I don't just mean in a casual sense. I mean truly, completely, and without hesitation. Too many people cling to relationships, friendships, opportunities, and situations that clearly aren't meant for them. And they spend their entire energy trying to hold on to something that is slipping away. And that's exhausting. That's painful. That's a waste of the precious time and energy that you have on this earth. You see, not everyone is meant to stay. And when you understand that, a whole new world opens up. I've watched so many people stay in situations where they're not chosen, where they're not prioritized, where they're not appreciated. And it breaks my heart every single time. They're giving their heart, their mind, and their spirit to people who don't value it. And they're left bitter and angry, wondering why life is so hard. But the truth is, life isn't hard. They're just holding onto the wrong people. They're holding onto someone who isn't willing to fight for them, someone who isn't willing to show up, someone who isn't willing to make a choice that aligns with their presence in your life. And that's a lesson that's hard to swallow because it cuts right to the core of your ego. It makes you feel small, rejected, overlooked, unworthy. But let me tell you something. It's none of those things. It's not about your worth. It's about theirs. If they can't see your value, if they can't choose you, if they can't step up, that is their limitation, not yours. Think about it for a moment. When you try to force someone to stay, you're trying to defy the natural flow of life. You're trying to bend their will, and that's not love. That's not loyalty. That's not friendship. That's desperation, and desperation never builds anything lasting. Desperation only leaves you empty, tired, and frustrated. The people who are meant to be in your life will choose to be there. They will make it obvious. They will make it easy. You won't have to manipulate, plead, or bargain for their presence. Their actions will speak louder than any words you could ever say. And when you learn to recognize this, you stop wasting your energy on people who are walking away anyway. You stop fighting for a seat at someone else's table when there's a whole banquet waiting for you elsewhere. I remember a woman I knew who kept trying to hold onto a man who clearly didn't want her. Every day she would text, call, plan, and adjust her life to fit his schedule, hoping that one day he would recognize her worth. And every day he took it for granted. He never made a choice, never prioritized her, and never committed. She was living in a state of constant anxiety and heartache, wondering why she wasn't enough. And then one day, she finally realized that it wasn't about her, it was about him. He couldn't choose her because he wasn't ready, he wasn't willing, and he wasn't capable. And the moment she let him walk, the moment she stopped chasing and stopped trying to force him to see her value, everything changed. She started living for herself, growing for herself, and attracting people who were ready and willing to be part of her life without hesitation. That is the power of letting go. There's a deeper lesson here too. Letting someone walk is not rejection, it's redirection. It's life's way of clearing the path for people who are truly meant to be there. When someone leaves, it creates space for someone better, someone aligned, someone who will see your value and act on it without you having to force the situation. And you have to trust that. You have to trust that life has a way of rearranging things to put the right people in your life at the right time. That's why holding on to someone who isn't choosing you is such a trap. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you from moving forward. And it keeps you from experiencing the fullness of what's possible when you operate in alignment with your own worth. I've also learned that letting people walk requires courage. It's not easy to release someone you care about, someone you invested in, or someone you imagined a future with. It's terrifying because it forces you to face the unknown. You wonder if you'll ever find someone who chooses you, someone who values you, someone who respects you. But here's the thing, the unknown is where growth happens. The unknown is where opportunity lives. And when you stop clinging, when you stop trying to manipulate outcomes, when you stop forcing people to choose you, you step into a space of freedom and possibility that you didn't have before. You step into a space where you can be yourself without apology, where you can invest in the right people, and where you can finally experience life the way it's supposed to be experienced, with joy, peace, and confidence. Letting someone walk is also an act of self-respect. It's saying, I know my value, I know who I am, and I refuse to waste my time on someone who doesn't recognize it. That is empowerment. That is strength. That is the kind of mindset that transforms lives. Because when you stop forcing, you stop settling. You stop giving your energy to people who don't deserve it. You stop allowing anyone to dictate your happiness. You take back control of your life, your choices, and your heart. And that is the kind of freedom that everyone is searching for but very few actually find. And let's be honest, the people who are meant to be in your life won't need you to chase them. They won't need you to beg for their attention or manipulate their feelings. They will choose you because they see your worth. They respect your boundaries and they recognize your presence as a blessing, not a burden. And when you start operating from this truth, your life changes completely. Your relationships improve. Your friendships deepen. Your love becomes richer. And most importantly, your peace of mind becomes unshakable because you are no longer at the mercy of someone else's indecision. So learn to let go. Learn to trust life. Learn that not everyone who leaves is taking something away. Some are just making room for the people who are meant to stay. Learn that walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Learn that when you stop forcing, you start attracting. Learn that freedom comes from releasing, not clinging. Learn that your value is inherent and non-negotiable. And anyone who doesn't see it is simply not meant to be part of your journey. There's a big difference between being desperate and being irresistible. And most people never really understand that. Desperation is heavy, it's needy, it's anxious, it's pushy, it's the exact opposite of attractive. It screams insecurity, doubt, and fear, and people can feel it from a mile away. When you're desperate, you're constantly chasing, constantly proving, constantly begging for validation, for love, for respect, for attention. And the problem with that is, desperation never gets you what you want. It only leaves you exhausted, frustrated, and frustrated again. On the other hand, being irresistible is magnetic. It's effortless. It doesn't need chasing. It doesn't need convincing. It doesn't need to plead for anyone to see your value. Irresistibility comes from confidence, from purpose, from clarity, and from understanding who you are and what you bring to the table. I remember a young man I knew who spent years trying to make people see him, trying to bend over backward to get their approval, trying to force friendships and relationships, trying to make people love him. And every time he failed, he came back asking the same question, why don't they notice me? Why won't they choose me? And I had to tell him the truth, because you're operating from desperation, not from confidence. You're showing them neediness, not value. You're trying to pull people in instead of allowing them to be drawn to your presence naturally. He didn't understand it at first, but over time, as he began to invest in himself, focus on his growth, and develop a sense of self, worth that wasn't dependent on others, something remarkable happened. People started noticing him without him having to try. He became irresistible because he stopped being desperate, and that is a game changer in life. Being irresistible is about understanding your value and refusing to negotiate it for anyone. It's about knowing who you are, what you want, and what you deserve, and showing up every day with that knowledge fully embodied. It's about being comfortable in your own skin, walking with confidence, speaking with clarity, and living with purpose. People are drawn to that kind of energy because it's rare, it's powerful, and it's authentic. When you become irresistible, you no longer have to force people to choose you, because the right people are naturally drawn to you. They recognize the strength, the confidence, and the peace that comes from someone who knows their worth, and they are compelled to align themselves with it without you having to do a single thing. Here's the thing, too many people spend their lives trying to be everything to everyone, trying to prove themselves, trying to make others happy, and trying to earn attention or approval. And in the process, they lose themselves. They lose their identity, their energy, their joy, and their peace. But when you focus on being irresistible, you shift the focus inward. You invest in yourself, in your mind, in your heart, in your goals, and in your purpose. You become someone who has something to offer, not because you need validation, but because you have built yourself into a complete, strong, and confident individual. And that is magnetic. That is irresistible. That is how you naturally attract the right people into your life. I've seen people sabotage their own relationships and opportunities because they were desperate. They tried to control outcomes. They tried to manipulate people. They tried to force someone to stay or choose them. And the result was always the same: disappointment, heartache, and a lot of wasted energy. Desperation is like carrying a heavy backpack through life. You're weighed down, exhausted, and unable to move freely. But irresistibility is like traveling light with everything you need. You are free, confident, and fully capable of navigating life with ease. When you operate from this place, people don't need to be convinced. They are drawn naturally because your energy communicates exactly who you are and what you stand for. Another important aspect of becoming irresistible is focus. Focus on yourself, your growth, your purpose, your passions. When you are fully engaged in building the life you want, in becoming the best version of yourself, in honing your skills, and in creating value in your own life, you become magnetic without even trying. People see that dedication, that drive, that clarity, and they are drawn to it. You stop wasting time and energy chasing those who are not aligned with your purpose, and instead, you attract the ones who are ready and willing to choose you naturally. This is the power of focus, of self-investment, and of personal growth. It makes you irresistible because it radiates authenticity and confidence. Let me be clear, being irresistible does not mean being arrogant or prideful. It doesn't mean dismissing people or treating others poorly. It means understanding your worth, respecting yourself, and showing up fully as your true self. It means setting boundaries and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. It means recognizing that your energy is valuable and should not be wasted on people who don't see it. When you live like this, you no longer have to chase anyone. You no longer have to plead, manipulate, or convince. The right people will be drawn to you naturally, and they will align themselves with your energy because they recognize the value you bring to the table. I want to tell you something else. The journey to irresistibility requires patience. You won't transform overnight. You won't become magnetic instantly. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes dedication, and it takes consistent self-work. You have to commit to growing, to learning, to building your confidence, and to investing in yourself every single day. You have to be willing to stand alone, to walk your own path, and to trust that as you develop into the best version of yourself, The people and opportunities that are meant for you will be drawn into your life naturally. And as you continue this journey, you'll notice a shift. People will respect your boundaries, appreciate your value, and choose to be a part of your life without you having to push or force them. The final piece of this is mindset. You have to believe that you are already enough, that you already have everything you need within you, and that anyone who aligns with your life is a bonus, not a necessity. When you operate from this mindset, you are no longer desperate. You are no longer needy. You are no longer willing to compromise your peace or self-respect for anyone. You are free, and in that freedom you become irresistible, because people are drawn to authenticity, confidence, and self-assuredness. They are drawn to people who know their worth and refuse to settle for anything less. They are drawn to people who operate from a place of abundance rather than lack, from a place of strength rather than weakness, and from a place of self-love rather than desperation. So focus on yourself. Invest in your mind, your body, your spirit, your goals, and your passions. Build your confidence, set your boundaries, respect yourself, and stop trying to convince anyone to see your value, because the right people will naturally be drawn to it. Be patient, be consistent, be intentional, and watch as your life transforms, as your energy attracts the right people, and as you become truly irresistible without ever having to force anyone to choose you.